Um, I don't really know where to begin with this, or just how to talk about it. I mean, I had this whole thing completely planned out and everything, but at the same time, it's like, what hasn't been said about one of the most legendary mangakas and illustrators in history? Like, the minute word got out about Toriyama Akira's death, like, everybody, myself included, I made a short about it earlier, and to put it plainly, to put it plainly, it's like, what can be said about it? Like, how do you go about talking about it in a way that never been said before? At the same time, it's like, in the end, you just say what's on your heart. Especially, you just say what you feel. Especially given the fact that someone whose works have left an indelible impact on you has just died days ago. Hold on. Sorry about that, everyone. It was just like there was something I had to take care of real quick. But I guess I should just talk about how Toriyama made an impact on me personally. No, Dragon Ball wasn't my first anime. That would go to Samurai Troopers, aka Ronin Warriors. I was like really, really young. I was like around like say 8 or 9 years old when I first heard of Dragon Ball Z. I was like 9 or 10. Yeah, we're well around those ages, because Dragon Ball Z came to the States in 1996, but it was like heavily edited and everything. I mean, my brother and I really liked that series. It was action packed. It was all of those things. Like it was an anime that I've never thought I'd see. Like it was totally different. Then like we did our research because the internet was a thing back then, and we found out that the series was far more than what we got over in Japan. The series is far more in Japan than what we got in here in the US. And soon as junior high and high school rolled in, Dragon Ball Z became like the talk of the town. Everybody was talking about it. Yeah. Like whenever I go to school, my classmates would talk about it. Like some people hated it, but a lot of people loved it. Like in many of my classes, people would talk about the new episode coming out. Well, some of us had access to the Japanese series. Well, some of us, well, like one of my brother's old friends from school, he would give us like VHSs of Dragon Ball episodes, mostly DBZ and Dragon Ball GT. We had like subtitled movies that we got to watch. Then we had 2 episodes of the Cell arc that did not come out yet, but it was crazy. Like it was also at a time where I was just starting learning Japanese and I couldn't understand a single thing that was being said. Like this was before I took the whole immersion journey, but that's not important. The thing is that series, Dragon Ball, really had an effect. Like we loved it. Like any person who is a huge Dragon Ball fan or anime fan will tell you about the time that they tried to do their first Kamehameha wave. And like I say, it's really awesome how all of this has happened. So now that the whole series that came out in the 80s and 90s has been completed, you have like more media, like video games, like extended specials that really extended the story a bit. It's really fantastic how all of this came about. So I'm thinking to myself, wow, like this is really cool stuff. I even bought like DVDs of the Dragon Ball movies. We even borrowed a couple of videos from friends, which had like the Majin Buu arc where Son Gohan was the Great Saiyaman. Had fun with that. We saw things we never thought we would be able to see on Toonami, or rather things that were never shown on the Toonami broadcasts, even though they've changed up a couple of things, and it was a lot more violent than what we got on broadcast TV. Like Funimation did a sizable job on the series. Not much I can say. And this is no diss on them. I even bought like action. I even bought like some model figures, which I really did do a good job at. They ended up being thrown in the trash. This one DVD that I bought from them was BoJack Unbound, which was basically after the Cell arc. It was one of my favorite movies to watch. I would watch it I would watch it in English dub. I would watch it in Japanese, and I would watch it in subtitles. Like I do so much about that. Like I do so much about that movie in and out because I watched it so many times. That's how much I liked it. I waited for the movies to come out on Toonami, which I thought was really cool. I really loved watching the Dragon Ball Z movies, especially. There was also the Dragon Ball. There was also the OG Dragon Ball, which they finally released. I wouldn't call it a prequel, but I would call it an awesome series worth worth everything. Like to make sense of everything that went on with DBZ, just watch that one. I don't know why they marketed it as a prequel, but they did because of DBZ's popularity, and it's whatever because I like it. They really did a good job with it, and I'm very proud. And I couldn't be any more happier about it. Like more and more people were talking about it. Dragon Ball Kai came about years later. The English dub was really good, in my honest opinion. I thought it was fun. And then, of course, in 2008, we had DBZ Abridged, which was a nice little parody that Team 4 Star did, which was a nice little love letter to the series. Like, those who knew Dragon Ball through that, like, hope you took their advice and watched the official releases because that's funny. But if you watch Dragon Ball or Dragon Ball Z or Dragon Ball TT, or even Dragon Ball Super whilst we're at it, since that came out many years later, then you will understand where many of the jokes were coming from. Like in the 2000s, especially, more and more people were starting to get into Dragon Ball. Even people that you never thought were into anime were getting into it. Like Dragon Ball, like Toriyama's work really had an amazing hand, really had a huge hand in pulling in a lot of new fans. Like, it also had a hand in letting you know if you are a long established anime fan as early on that started at an early age, that you'll come to find that there are more and more people that love this series that you never thought would even dare watch a cartoon, least of all anime. But not only are they knowledgeable of Dragon Ball, but they're also knowledgeable of anime as a whole. And you wouldn't know it from first glance until you got to know them. Like Toriyama really brought a lot of people of different lifestyles together. Not only that, it had an impact on my brother, especially. He was more of a Dragon Ball fan than I was. Like, he would constantly train rigorously. He would exercise. He would play sports at school. He would, I mean, he's already been the athletic. He was more the athletic type anyway, so Dragon Ball was a big boost for him. It's really wonderful. Like, he definitely saw himself in Vegeta, whereas I saw myself in Gohan. Like, the characters were very relatable to a varying degree. Like, Gohan became one of my favorite characters in the franchise. I don't care what no one says. He's this guy that is reluctant, but when push comes to shove, he'll do what he has to. But then, like in his teenage years, he becomes like this Toku hero, which blew my mind. And me being a Toku fan, especially, and after a couple of rewatches of Dragon Ball Z, especially, there is a sense of novelty that Gohan has. Then you have so many things related to Dragon Ball, such as memes and other additional jokes. I already talked about DBZ Abridged and how it helped create this impact. And then I see like tons and tons of stories done by fans related to Dragon Ball. You have like the rumored Dragon Ball AF, which, as far as I'm concerned, is fan created. You have Absalon. You have these alternate universe Dragon Ball stories. Then you have fan animations. The biggest one was the Vegeta focused fan animation, which was one of the best I've ever seen. That lets you know that Dragon Ball really does inspire a lot of people to do stuff. And then when you read like many of the manga guides from other stories such as Naruto and One Piece and whatever, the creators of these famous shows of these mangas and these overall stories, which are popular in their own right, talk about how they owe their success to Dragon Ball. Another thing you also have to know is that Toriyama is not somebody who is very public about his life. Like, he keeps things secret. The only thing you know about him is the fact that, oh, he did character designs for Dragon Quest and Chrono Trigger. Oh, he's working on another Dragon Ball project. Oh, like if it's not Dragon Ball related or anything related to anime or video game illustration and whatnot, then you're not going to hear much out of him. And that's how it was. Like, then you have Toru Taro, who is a fan of Dragon Ball, but it also has a hand in the creation process of the series. He helped in the creation of a lot of the extended stories, the spin-offs, including the artwork for Dragon Ball Super. We have a lot of video games. Many of them were Japan-only releases. And then when Dragon Ball became popular globally, became internationally popular, a lot of these new games started coming out and are now getting Western releases. And it's just a wonderful thing to see. Even if the game is terrible, it lets you know that Dragon Ball is not just your run-of-the-mill show. It's not your run-of-the-mill story. There's a lot of magic involved in this. A lot of good magic. Because everybody and their mom is talking about it. People are running around with Capsule Corporation jackets and shirts, Dragon Ball hats, everything. Like, if nowadays you have Hollywood celebrities who owe their inspiration to Dragon Ball. You have Michael B. Jordan, for example. When he played the role of Killmonger in the Black Panther film, that armor that he had on looks an awful lot like what Vegeta would wear. And it just looks, I mean, it really looks an awful lot like Vegeta's armor. You have Ronda Rousey, who owes her time as a wrestler to and a combat sport athlete to being a Dragon Ball fan. You have musicians that are Dragon Ball fans. You have fashionistas that centered their entire fashion on this series. You have video commentaries about Dragon Ball. You have retrospectives on it. I'm saying all of this to say that it's going to suck now that Toriyama is gone. Because it may not look it, but he really brought this world together. He brought a lot of people together. Like, he was the face of modern day shonen manga. He was the face of action. He was the face of storytelling for many people. And that is an impact that's going to last a long, long time. As long as people talk about and love Dragon Ball. So I'm just going to end it from here and continue to extend my condolences to Toriyama's family, his closest friends that are still alive, the people that he has worked closely with, and a big shout out to every single fan who has really shown their love for Toriyama's work, be it Dragon Ball, Sandland, Dr. Slump, some of his unfinished stories, Chrono Trigger, Dragon Quest, Blue Dragon, all of those. So with that, I would like to say RIP to Toriyama Akira, and catch you guys in the next video.